Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching It, Welcome to Derry, the new series on HBO Max that is a prequel to the recent It movies, adapted from Stephen King's novel, for those of you guys who are living under a rock, because this thing has been around forever with the original Tim Curry release, now the more recent one with Bill Scarsgard, and this. And just to jump, just right out the bat, just to let you guys know where I stand as a fan of It and Stephen King novels. I've seen It, and I've seen the second It of this most recent Billy Skarsgård version, and I've seen the original, but I would never ever consider myself like a mega fan of the franchise. I've seen it, I think, once each time. I didn't love it, but I didn't dislike it at all. I thought it was good, and I thought it was good enough to give this show an honest chance, and I think I'm gonna stick with it a little bit. I don't know how I'm going to cover it yet, so I want you guys to let me know. If you want to see my coverage of every episode, let me know. I do plan to, at least, if I don't do every episode, at least I'll do a season 1 overall review. But let me know if you want to see episode by episode. I'm very open to covering it. Yeah, this show, as I already mentioned, serves as a prequel to the It movies that recently came out. And this season, I guess, currently takes place in 1960s, around the events of Derry. Obviously, it's called Welcome to Derry. And it follows, so far, at least what we've been introduced to, an A-plot of a kid named Maddie who disappeared, and his friends go out to find him, friends such as Lily and a couple of the others that were with them, and they go out to try to find him because they all start seeing weird things and hearing Maddie basically in the sewers. Like, for instance, Lily hears him in the sink, or in the disposal of her, or pipes, I guess you could call it, of her tub. And I think the other character's name is Ronnie, who's the daughter of one of the owners of the cinema. She hears him too, and so do some of the other kids whose names are escaping me, because a lot of the kids, as we'll learn in a little bit, didn't make it. It seems that they didn't make it out of this episode, so they're not like super important characters. But it follows that as the A plot. And then as the B plot, so far, we have this military type story of a couple individuals who are supposed to be flying the B-2 bomber, with, coincidentally, as one of their captains is James Remar, who plays Harrison, or Harry Morgan, in Dexter. So it was great to see him, because anything that James Remar is in is something I'm interested in. He's a phenomenal actor. But so far, that's all that plot really seems to be. I do know in the trailers that we are clearly going to get more of it, and it is going to become a central focus of the show, but so far they haven't really made it. It was kind of just like them. It didn't feel like it. It was just them being established, which I think is an overall thing about this first episode. I would not call this a good episode, but I wouldn't call it bad. This episode definitely was doing its job of a pilot, which the episode is coincidentally called The Pilot because it's about pilots. Funny little series of events there. But this episode was not like substantive in the form of like, there wasn't anything that really like hooked me, except for the ending, which we're going to get into, and that's really the only thing keeping me interested in seeing where this goes. But also, I want to see more of it. I'm like willing to give it a shot more, because I know what this franchise is and I know where it can go. But I would not call this like a masterpiece episode or anything. It was an episode that did a lot of establishing, because that's what you got to do. Obviously, it's not with our crew that we followed in the It remakes that we saw recently, or even in the original ones. This is a whole new group of people. So obviously, you have to establish that story. And I do think towards the end of the episode, they did a very good job of doing that with what happens in the cinema, which is crazy, later in the episode. But that's kind of it as far as your premise. You have the A-plot of Maddie disappearing, and then his friends like Lily, who seems to be now the central focus of this season, and some of the others like Ronnie going after her, and a couple of the boys who get killed. And then the B plot is the pilots, which clearly they're going to build them to. They're trying to learn more about this force within Derry. You could see that in the trailers. The trailers played right after the episode ended, so I hope that's not much of a spoiler, but that is clearly where that story is going. They wouldn't just have a random B-2 bomber story in the B plot if it didn't have anything to do with trying to discover the mysteries of Derry. That would just make no sense at all. Because for a little bit of time, that is what it felt like. I was like, where the fuck is this going? Like, this is going nowhere. But then after I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, okay, well, this makes sense. And you wouldn't have James Remar playing one of the captains on that side of the story if they weren't building towards something really dramatic that had to do with Pennywise and all of that. And about Pennywise, we did not see him, at least in his clown form this episode, but I do think, and I could be wrong about this, pretty sure that creature that looked like the baby Jersey Devil, pretty sure that thing was Pennywise being born again, essentially. Could be, I don't know. But really, the only other part that I have to talk about with this is the ending, because the ending was really solid, in my opinion, albeit you could tell this is more of a TV show budget, wherein that Jersey Devil looking baby thing didn't really look real. Like, it was kind of funny looking, but it was creepy how Maddie was in the TV screen and then it went dark and he like birthed the thing out. That was creepy. That was creepy. But I will say, before we get any further, I made a video about this 2 years ago on the channel, and I think this is part of the reason I didn't absolutely love this episode. I made a video about this 2 years ago on the channel, and it still holds true today. I am a fucking pussy when it comes to jump scares, and I also, just in general, think that they make a horror show cheap. The reason I think that is because if you have to rely on that as your premise to get a scare out of people, there's a red flag in the writing there. Because honestly, this premise of It, Stephen King has a good foundation there, and this premise alone is creepy enough on its own. You could do so much with childhood trauma and horror that you shouldn't have to rely on jump scares too much. But this episode relied on it so much. I pooped bricks, I think 4 times maybe in this episode, and it's only the first episode. And that was a deterrent for me as someone who hates jump scares. Like, not only because I think they're a bad writing trope, but I just genuinely, they freak me the fuck out. I don't like them, and they don't freak me out for the right reasons. They freak me out for the wrong reasons. I don't like that in a show. So when I see jump scares in my first episode, I'm like, fuck this. I'm not gonna watch this show. I don't wanna have a near heart attack every time I go to watch the fucking episode of TV. Sorry, I didn't mean to freak out that much about it, because honestly, it's not the biggest deal, but to me, it is a little bit of a red flag. Outside of my immaturities of being petrified of them, it is a little bit of a red flag to me that you have to rely so heavily on jump scares. I did think at the end that they did them pretty well, but there was a couple in the beginning that were just really cheap, just grasping at straws to get you to pay attention. The ending, though, when the demon thing came out of the screen, I will say those were a little tasteful, because it did feel like you were kind of a POV or a fly on the wall of being in that room. So those I could forgive a little bit more, and they were also a little bit more predictable then, because we all knew the monster was out. But yeah, the beginning parts of it really just made me shit a muffin. I'm not even kidding. I can't stand jump scares. Anyway, I say all of that to say, because the ending had a lot of them with this sequence. That sequence alone, outside of the jump scares, was really cool, and I did thoroughly enjoy it, and it was a very interesting sort of twist to outright in your first episode, after you're getting exposure to these kids, like Teddy was one of them, Theodore, I guess his name is, and I think Rich is the other kid, and a couple of the others. After seeing them literally like get ripped apart in the first episode, I was like, damn, like that's an interesting way to introduce your story, because you're following this crew. The whole time I'm watching this episode, I'm like, do I like these kids or do I not? Because the one kid is only talking about boobs the whole time, talking about getting ass and shit like that, and the other kid's like, stop, I'm trying to focus. Like, you have like that dynamic between the two of them, and then they both get literally like ripped apart. I was surprised, because in the beginning I was like, I don't know if I like this crew, and then they started to slowly grow on me, and then they died. I wasn't expecting them to die, so that was Definitely a welcome twist, and the reason that I'm invested in watching and will continue, whether I cover the show or not. Again, that's up to you guys. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you down there. But that whole ending alone got me hooked onto where this story could go. And then the trailer showing more of the B plot and where that's going to go hooked me more, because in the moment, everything I watched, A plot and B plot, I was like, where the fuck is this going? Because I didn't find it that enjoyable. And then it wasn't until the ending scene and then the trailer showing more where I was like, oh, this is going to be a cool story. And that's how I feel about the episode. I would not give this like a crazy rating. If I were to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, this would be like a 6 to me. It's not a crazy episode, but I'm more accepting to it because I know that a pilot episode needs to do those things. I've in the past seen it happen where the pilot episode of a TV show kind of is mid, but then it gets incredible. So I'm not going to judge it too hard for that, because I do get that. But it did hook me at the end. I am interested to see where it goes. So again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Did you like this episode? Did you hate this episode? Is it not what you were expecting? All of that. And also let me know if you want to see my weekly coverage of it, because I'm happy to do that. With all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.